This video delves into narcissistic abuse in relationships, covering signs, effects, and recovery. We aim to offer support and understanding for those facing manipulation, devaluation, or control. Join us on this journey to navigate narcissistic abuse with empathy and insight. 1. Controlling behavior. Controlling behavior is a clear indicator of narcissistic abuse, where narcissists aim to exert control and manipulate their victims by limiting their autonomy, such as imposing control over clothing choices, friendships, or finances. Psychologists observe that specific manifestations of narcissism, particularly those marked by grandiosity and heightened anger, can evolve into violent behavior when intertwined with a desire for dominance. This combination creates a dangerous dynamic, with abusers resorting to aggression if they sense their grip on control weakening. 2. Gaslighting and censorship. Gaslighting, a tactic of emotional manipulation, is a prominent indicator of narcissistic abuse. In this pattern, the abuser distorts facts, leverages your own words against you, and sows doubt about your reality, exerting control over your expressions and thoughts while dismissing your truths and regulating your emotions. It can erode self-confidence and foster submission, with victims sometimes placing the abuser's feelings above their own, notably in child abuse cases. Concurrently, censorship frequently aligns with gaslighting, as the abuser endeavors to curtail your verbal communication and cognitive processes, perpetuating their dominance. 3. Social isolation. Social isolation is a common tactic in narcissistic abuse, where abusers use it to control their victims. A narcissist will gradually distance you from your support network, such as friends, family, and outside interests, to assert complete control over your life. This process begins subtly, often with minor disparaging remarks about your family or friends. Over time, these actions escalate, leading you to doubt the intentions of your support system. As a result, the victim becomes increasingly isolated, alone, and reliant on the narcissist. This isolation keeps victims trapped and can lead to violence if they try to break free. 4. Lack of boundaries and invasions of privacy. Lack of boundaries and invasions of privacy are critical signs of narcissistic abuse. As your relationship with a narcissist progresses, they may invade your privacy, monitoring your whereabouts and personal information, all to exert control. Renowned psychologists like Dr. Craig Malkin and Dr. Ramani Durvasula emphasize that narcissists use these tactics to gain dominance. These violations erode your sense of self and safety, causing confusion and anxiety, as noted by Dr. Judith Herman. 5. Threats and verbal abuse. Narcissistic abuse often involves threats and verbal abuse as critical indicators. It includes name-calling, belittling, and yelling, all aimed at emotionally calming the victim. Verbal attacks can escalate into threats against the victim or their loved ones, sometimes even using self-harm as a means of emotional manipulation. Psychologist Dr. George Simon notes, narcissists can use threats of self-harm to keep their victims feeling responsible for their emotional state, keeping them hooked in the relationship. 6. Projection. Projection in narcissistic abuse is a manipulative tactic where the abuser shifts their flaws or negative behavior onto the victim, creating confusion. This defense mechanism, explained by experts like Sigmund Freud, allows narcissists to protect their self-esteem by avoiding blame. They often employ DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim offender, denying wrongdoing, attacking the victim, and making themselves the victim as a means of control. Hello viewers, it might be astonishing, but currently, 80% of you haven't subscribed yet. If you're finding this informative video enjoyable, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. Your support goes a long way in helping us. Now, let's proceed, shall we? 7. Excusing or ignoring their bad behaviors. Narcissistic abuse often involves the abuser never taking responsibility for their actions, and instead making excuses for their hurtful behavior. Victims may unintentionally enable this by rationalizing the narcissist's behavior, saying things like, "They're just stressed," or "You don't know them like I do." Experts like Dr. Ramani Durvasula and Dr. Judith Orloff highlight how this pattern can harm both the victim and the relationship, as it allows the narcissist to continue their behavior unchecked and can erode the victim's self-esteem. 8. Lack of empathy. In narcissistic relationships, a lack of empathy is a significant warning sign. While healthy relationships thrive on mutual care and understanding, narcissistic partners often focus on self-centeredness, making it difficult to genuinely grasp or care about their partner's feelings. This emotional disconnect can leave the non-narcissistic person feeling undervalued, lonely, and sad. Renowned clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula highlights that narcissists struggle to attune to their partner's emotions, reinforcing this lack of empathy. 9. Manipulative behaviors. Narcissistic abuse often involves emotional manipulation. As renowned psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula points out, narcissists are like con artists, skilled at manipulation. She warns, narcissistic manipulation can be so subtle that you may not even realize it's happening until you're deeply entangled. They'll control your thoughts and desires, making future promises, employing emotional blackmail, and even coercing you into actions like staying home, missing work, engaging in sex with them, or spending money on them. 10. Exploitation. Exploitation in narcissistic abuse involves viewing people as objects to fulfill one's needs without guilt or empathy. It's as if they believe they're entitled to use people for their benefit. Dr. Ramani Durvasula says, narcissists see others as mere tools to serve their needs. They exploit people without a second thought. Narcissists view people as objects, like tools or toys, rather than individuals with their thoughts and emotions. They see others as a means to an end. Narcissistic abuse leaves a mark, whether you've dealt with it for a short or long time. It's a sneaky, gradual kind of manipulation. Now, I will show you the effects of narcissistic abuse on an individual. Effect 1. Narcissistic abuse or victim syndrome. People who've been through narcissistic abuse can go through something like PTSD, like a narcissistic abuse syndrome. However, it's not an official diagnosis. It messes with your emotions, making you feel disconnected and bewildered. You might have these thoughts you don't want, flashbacks, avoid things, and feel super lonely, isolated, and on edge. If you find yourself in a similar situation later, it could trigger you big time. Effect 2. Anxiety and depression. Being with a narcissist is a roller coaster of stress and confusion. You're always on edge, not knowing what's coming next, which can lead to anxiety. They're pros at making you feel worthless with all those put-downs, which can spiral into depression. Low self-esteem and hopelessness can take you down a dark path. Effect 3. Physical health symptoms. Narcissistic abuse messes with your head, and your body takes the hit too. You might have body aches, headaches, and stomach problems because you're always tense. These health symptoms are often a result of sleeping and eating disorders caused by narcissistic abuse. Effect 4. Memory and cognition issues. Living with an abusive partner, especially one who messes with your head like gaslighting, can affect your ability to focus. You're constantly on edge, wondering what's real, which can lead to memory problems and confusion even after you break free from the relationship. Question: how do victims of narcissistic abuse recover? When dealing with the aftermath of narcissistic abuse, it's often on the victim to pick up the pieces, mainly because narcissists tend to avoid taking responsibility or changing their ways. These toxic relationships often end in divorce or legal battles due to their complicated nature and the narcissist's resistance to change. Healing from such a relationship is possible, but it's a process that takes time and a willingness to trust again. Here are some tips for handling narcissistic abuse. Tip 1. Recognize when it's time to walk away. Narcissists are impossible to satisfy because they're rarely content with themselves. Sometimes, the best thing for your mental well-being is to end the relationship. Tip 2. Don't be fooled by narcissists' tactics. Ending a relationship with a narcissist can pose challenges. They might plead, offer assurances of change, lavish you with pricey presents, or profess eternal love. Stay resilient and keep in mind that their behaviors often follow familiar patterns. Tip 3. Understand that narcissists won't change. It's vital to accept that narcissists rarely change. They just get better at manipulation. Remind yourself that you deserve a healthy, loving relationship. Tip 4. Build your self-esteem. Narcissists excel at undermining your self-worth and making you feel small. Seek methods to enhance self-esteem and lean on your support network for assistance. Tip 5. Set clear boundaries. Be mindful of the episodes when you sense threats or frustration, and set firm boundaries with the narcissist. Stick to these boundaries to safeguard yourself. Tip 6. Prioritize your needs. Due to narcissistic abuse, it's common to lose sight of your needs. Concentrate on looking after yourself, one step at a time. Tip 7. Remember, it's not your fault. Remember that you aren't responsible for the abuse and humiliation you went through. Narcissistic personality disorder existed long before you became part of the equation. Dealing with narcissistic abuse is challenging but essential. Recognize the signs, understand the impact, and know recovery is possible with support and self-care. Set boundaries, prioritize self-love, and take it one step at a time on the path to healing and a brighter future.